Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling a massive source of financial anxiety for pretty much anyone who owns a home. If you've ever, stared at your outdated layout, dreamed of finally knocking down that one wall, and then immediately felt a pit in your stomach about the true costs, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the real homeowner math for big renovations.
Let's get right into it. How do people actually afford this? It's the exact question we literally all mutter to ourselves when we're binging those perfect, stress-free home renovations on TV. You see the gleaming new kitchens, those massive primary suites, but nobody ever talks about the messy, complex financial reality of how those projects actually get funded. So today, we're totally stripping away that television magic and looking strictly at the cold, hard numbers.
Here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First up, the renovation reality check. Then, we'll look beyond the contractor's bid, dive into financing options in 2026, ask 3 questions you must ask, and wrap up with why scope beats demolition. Let's get going.
Section 1. The renovation reality check, looking at the real numbers of 2026.
Okay, to really understand how people afford this stuff, we first have to totally shatter our baseline expectations. According to the 2026 Cost versus Value Report, a mid-range, major kitchen remodel has a national average cost of around $80,000. And an upscale remodel? Yeah, that easily exceeds $155,000. That is essentially the price of a small sports car just for your cabinets and countertops. Grounding ourselves in these stark realities, well, that's step 1.
And you're also going to encounter massive regional variations. Think about 3 very different 2026 projects. A 200-square-foot suburban kitchen gut remodel. That came in around $92,000. Meanwhile, a 100-square-foot primary bathroom addition in a mid-sized city hit $115,000, mostly because it required a whole new foundation. And a full second-story addition in a high-cost metro area, try $450,000. The thing to remember here is that while materials are a national market, labor is incredibly local, and that's what drives these huge spreads.
Section 2. Beyond the contractor's bid. The hidden costs that break budgets.
This brings us right to the single most common trap for first-time renovators, and honestly, it's a real budget breaker. The biggest mistake homeowners make is confusing the contractor's initial estimate with the total project cost. Listen, the bid you sign is strictly for labor and materials tied to a very specific, defined scope of work. That's it. It is definitely not your all-in number. If you aren't prepared, you will absolutely get blindsided by 3 specific things once the project actually begins. First up, soft costs. We're talking architectural plans, structural engineers, and permit fees. These alone can add 5 to 15% to your budget before a single hammer even swings. Second, change orders. Any deviation after you lock the scope, even just swapping out a tile choice, is going to cost you both money and time. And third, hidden conditions. This is when you tear open a wall and find, say, old knob and tube remnants in a 1960s Tudor, or pre-1985 galvanized supply lines that literally just crumble in your hands.
Because of those hidden conditions, you absolutely have to memorize this number, 10 to 15%. The National Association of Home Builders strictly recommends a 10 to 15% contingency fund on renovations for homes over 30 years old. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. If your project is highly complex, 20% is even safer. And remember, this is not upgrade money. This is your safety net for unforeseen disasters. It's honestly the most important line item in your entire budget.
Section 3. Financing options in 2026. Funding your project the right way.
So, now that we know what it costs, how on earth do we actually fund it? Well, the financial landscape is always shifting, right? And the reality right now in 2026 is that interest rates have stabilized, but they are noticeably higher than they were 5 years ago. This is a massive shift. It means the old advice of just doing a cash-out refinance is often a pretty costly mistake today, especially if you'd be giving up an incredibly low rate on your primary mortgage. Plus, lenders are looking way more closely at debt-to-income ratios right now. When you compare your structural options, a home equity loan gives you a predictable lump sum with a fixed rate. That is absolutely perfect if you have a fixed, known cost. Now, a HELOC, or home equity line of credit, acts a lot more like a credit card. It's got a variable rate and a draw period, offering great flexibility if you think your costs might fluctuate. And then there's the cash-out refinance, which actually replaces your entire mortgage. But like we just noted, in the 2026 rate environment, you have to be super careful with that last one. Your choice here directly dictates your project's financial flexibility, so you definitely want to choose wisely.
Section 4. 3 questions you must ask. Interrogating your own plans.
All right, before you ever make a phone call to a contractor or a bank, you really need to have a serious meeting with yourself and answer 3 vital questions. Step 1, what is your walkaway number? Setting this absolute maximum limit, and yes, including your contingency in that, prevents emotional decisions from totally ruining your finances. Step 2, is this renovation for you or is it for resale? High ROI resale projects demand neutral finishes, while personal projects let you indulge in those super custom choices. You kind of can't have it both ways. And step 3, can the house actually handle the scope?
There's a great saying that perfectly captures that third question. We need to know if our foundation and framing can support a second story before we spend money designing it. It's so true. You cannot put a 500-pound cast iron tub on joists that were meant for a lightweight fiberglass shower. Ignoring your home's existing load paths always leads to unbudgeted nightmares. So bring in a structural engineer for a consultation up front. Find out exactly what the house can hold before you pay an architect to design something that's literally impossible to build.
Oh, and part of interrogating your plan is also interrogating your timeline. While materials supply chains have mostly recovered from that crazy pandemic whiplash, here in 2026 we are still seeing lead times for custom windows, doors, and high-end appliances stretch up to 16 weeks. That's a huge chunk of time. You have got to plan to order these items the exact second your plans are finalized to keep things on track.
Section 5. Why scope beats demolition, planning is your ultimate financial tool.
It sounds boring, but aggressive planning is actually your ultimate financial tool. And smart planning really means mitigating risk. First, avoid acting as your own general contractor. Yes, you might save a little fee, but you are trading that for immense stress and a ton of liability. I mean, if someone gets hurt on site, your homeowner's insurance might not even cover it. Smart planning also means locking in those federal tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act for things like heat pumps now before they start phasing down in 2027. And finally, it means strictly navigating local building departments. They are stricter than ever right now, so never ever start without an approved permit.
And this brings us to the core philosophy of this entire explainer. Money doesn't build a project. A clear, detailed scope of work builds a project. The money? It just feels it. A loose scope is basically a blank check, and I promise you the house always cashes it. But a locked scope, where literally every single detail is finalized before a permit is even pulled, that gives you absolute confidence in your budget, your cost, and your timeline. It is a real game changer.
So, I'll leave you with this one thought. As you look around your own home right now and dream about what it could be, are you ready to lock your scope or are you writing your house a blank check? Don't start with a giant question mark on your budget. Start with a period. Do the math and build with absolute confidence. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.